Hello, friends. I'm here. Hello, Exiled Fae. Hello, Shagraz. Another day of being first. Hello, Pi. And also, hello, JG, if you're still lurking. Thanks for the preemptive lurk. How are you? We've got a hydrate from Pi. We're going to start the stream with a hydrate from the Ursula mug. AB Coffee, hello. I don't know if you can see it, because you can see it. Look at this. I haven't gotten to play it yet, but look at this. I downloaded it. It's on my computer. It's on my desktop, so I won't forget. So I will see it there. And as soon as I have a free time, I'll be like, yes. How are you, everybody? How are you, AB Coffee? Look, I desperately wanted to play it this weekend, but I was so far behind. So I was actually not feeling the greatest at the end of, not last week, but the week before. So I kind of had that one week where I did all my streams at the beginning of the week, and then that week after where I did all my streams at the end of the week. It was because I wasn't feeling well over the weekend, but it meant that my schedule on both of those weeks was very squished. And when I sat down to update my schedule, I was like, I'm way behind on everything. My back was hurting, and my foot was hurting, and my foot is doing a lot better. My back is obviously doing better. But yeah, I had a couple of days where I was basically on the couch. I started watching, in Canada, everything that's on Hulu is in Disney Plus, because we don't have Hulu, and Disney owns Hulu, or something like that, or like they have a contract with Hulu, so like all of their stuff that streams on Hulu in the US streams on Disney Plus Stars. Which is just part of Disney Plus in Canada. And so they have, like, all of the Criminal Minds, like, all 3 million seasons of all 12 shows. So I started watching the first one when I was just feeling like a couch potato, just to have entertainment. So we'll see what that whole craze is about. The first season is not that great, but then I think the first season of most shows is not that great, especially from like 2005, so we'll see. Criminal Minds, the first season of the original Criminal Minds show. Have you seen that one, Shograz? It's like what? I will say that I think there's one character in the first season that I kind of hope they drop because he's not interesting. It is a procedural crime show. What is your opinion of it, Shagraz? I'm hoping that it gets better. The first season has not really been of the like 9 episodes I've watched. There was one really good episode, and the rest have been either okay or not great. I do think they have this habit in the first season of telling all of the criminals that they're criminals because they're impotent, and it's like, I really hope at some point the show becomes about actual psychology and not about how everyone does crimes because they can't get off any other way. But it's the first season. I'm tempering my expectations. It has like 12 seasons, so it had to have gotten good at some point. I started watching Summertime Rendering on the Disney Plus. Not sure if it's on the Canada version. Is that the name of the show? Summertime Rendering? I could try and look it up. Pi wants the hat. We will have the hat. Basically, like, I've been pretty open about this. I have at least one day every month where I basically can't do anything but sit at the couch. So I try to find like shows that I can watch somewhat mindlessly in like chunk doses. That was how I ended up watching Lucifer, which I actually really ended up enjoying, but I wasn't looking for like high quality entertainment. I was just like, it's a show about the devil solving crimes. Maybe it'll be decent. Did you finally watch seasons 4, 5, and 6, Shagraz? Because let me tell you, season 4 was the best season. Season 4 was peak. I sat Vinyl down and we watched it. Nice. Did Vinyl like it? I think, Shagraz, you have to agree. Season 4 was peak. Season 4 was the best season, best story, best Lucifer, 100%. I'll rewatch season 4 like 50 times. It's an anime. Oh, okay, yeah. I think if it's on Disney Plus in the US, it should be on Disney Plus in Canada. I was great until the last season, or angry about the last season. I had very mixed feelings about the ending. The ending felt a little contrived for me, of season 6. I don't want to say too much because I don't know if everyone has seen it, but to me, season 4 was the best season. Season 4 was peak. We're talking about, hey, Bird of the Inferno, we're talking about Lucifer. No spoilers. We will not spoil anything. I'm just saying season 4 was the best. So, yeah. Watch season 4 of Lucifer. I guess you have to watch the first 3 seasons. Season 3 was the worst season, in my opinion. But season 4 was the best season. Not a show I'm interested in. Good. We're good then. I still won't spoil anything. Exiled Faye, I agree with you. I won't say your comment out loud just in case someone is listening and doesn't want spoilers. I think season 3 was the worst. I think season 6 was like... Season 6 was at least a coherent story, even if I wasn't a total fan of the story. Season 3 was just a train wreck. But season 4 was when it moved to Netflix and they were like, we can show Tom Ellis's ass now. And then they did. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to talk too much about the ending for anyone who wants to see the show. To me, I think it didn't impact quite the way they wanted it to because immortality, but I don't want to say too much more than that. I feel like I'm weirdly, like, out of frame here. But yeah, so I started watching Lucifer just because I have one day every month where I have to basically be on the couch and rest, because cramps suck. And that was why I watched Lucifer. It was my potato day show, but I'm out of that now. I've watched that. I watched this show on Disney Plus called Gallivant. I only watched the first season. It only has 2 seasons. It's like a musical. It's like a musical medieval knight story. It's really weird. It's not bad. It's not... I don't know if it's good. It's weird. It's musical, though. So I watched the first season of that. What else have I watched Castle. That was how I watched Castle. So I watched all that. I hated the last season of Castle. It was awful. But all the rest of it was pretty decent. And now I'm watching Criminal Minds because it's there and people are like, it's pretty good. So, I'm giving it a try. I'm trying to get the hat and my face in. There we go. How are you guys? It's Tuesday. Ghost is back in school with the Chillins, teaching, enlightening young minds, preparing them for the future. Have you watched the Marvel shows? Yes, Ghost and I watched the Marvel shows together. We just started watching She-Hulk. So we've only seen the first 2 episodes of that. We've been watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I gotta be honest, it's awful. We're on the season where they go to space, and it seems like a massive departure from the rest of the show, but we'll see. I'm finding a lot of content nowadays can turn songs into comedy plot, etc., and it's so fascinating. I can't music. I love musicals, though. Also, everybody, how are you? I know I said hey, and then we just started talking about TV shows, so please let me know how you guys are doing, how your weekend was, what you're up to. And hello! How are you? I watched Anne play some Dead Space last night and then some League. Yeah, we are on the season where they go to space. We liked the Ghost Rider season, kind of. It was kind of their best season. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the space season on Ward gets wonky and keeps getting wonky. No, this is the space season where they actually go, like, not the season with Ward. I hated Ward. I hated that character. I hated him so much. Again, I'm trying to say things without spoilering. Lurking while I work on edits? Nice! Good luck with the edits, Bird of Inferno. We're gonna do some writing at some point, too, I swear. We're gonna world build today. I hated Ward. Oh my gosh. I have so many things that I want to say. If you haven't seen Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and you want to see Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., mute me for, like, the next minute. They did this whole plot line in season 4 where they went into this framework thing, and they had changed, like, history, so they saw, like, what the world would have been like if it was different. And they tried to do this heartwarming thing where they gave Ward redemption. In, like, the actual timeline, Ward was, like, a massive abusive asshole. And then they tried to, like, reconcile this fake version with Skye. Like, that's straight up gaslighting. Can we just talk about how they basically were trying to force her into the arms of her abuser? Someone who kidnapped her multiple times, like, and just was completely, like, over the top, like, using her and manipulating her, and then they're like, yeah, but he could have been a good guy. No, though, but he wasn't. Like, I was furious. I was like, whoever wrote this storyline clearly doesn't understand that this is not okay. They clearly don't understand that this is basically, like, he abused her and they are trying to make her, like, forgive him. And it's like, that is not good. That's not cool. If you write a story about abuse, own up to the fact that your character, that the abusive character is abusive. I mean, stories about abuse are important. We need to understand that that's a thing that happens and that that's an experience, a trauma that people go through. But do not try and turn around and make the abuser, like, don't try to make a person feel a certain way about their abuser if they don't feel that way. Like, that is not okay. That is not good. I would go so far as to call it rapey. Don't do it. Just don't do it. Hey, Comf, you came in at a weird time. I didn't like how at the time the only plot thread to get her out was damsel in distress, and it was frustrating narratively. For sure. I thank you, Halo, for the stretch and the hydrate. We're gonna do the stretch first, because hat, you guys all want to see the hat fall off my head, I'm sure. I do feel like one of the major things that they struggle with on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is they don't understand emotions. If somebody goes through trauma on that show, they basically are like, hey, you went through trauma, now it's over. And then they wipe it under the rug. They never talk about the emotions again. It's like emotions don't exist. It was like in season 4, like I was saying, one of the characters is basically brainwashed into doing horrible things. And afterwards, they're like, it's okay, we forgive you. And it's like, that doesn't mean that he's fine. That doesn't mean that he feels okay about, like, he went through a horrible, traumatic experiences, one of the most horrible experiences in the show. And they're just like, it's over now. Exactly. You're supposed to actually work through your emotions. So yeah, those are my main issues with that show, is that, like, they don't seem to understand that, yes, you can put a character through hell, and you should put a character through hell and show them overcoming it and showing them be stronger, which they did a lot with Skye in the first 2 seasons, but then they just get to this point where they're like, okay, you experienced trauma, but it's done now. We never have to talk about it again. And, like, I was telling, I'm going on a rant now. I'm sorry. But no, you are supposed to talk about your feelings, or you're supposed to at least work through your feelings. You're not supposed to just pretend they don't exist. Season 2, they do talk about Max stuff multiple times, and they do talk about it, just not out front. Yeah, but like, they don't talk about any of the stuff that happens with Daisy in season 3. Like, they're like, you came back to the group now, so it's over. And they don't talk about what happened to Fitz. And what was I even talking about? I don't even remember which part I was about to rant about, but yeah, they have a real problem sometimes with just being like, great, it's over, we're moving on now. But we're in the space season. We just started the space season, the season where they get, like, zapped into the future. It's really, really different from everything else they've done with that show, so I'm really interested to find out how the story unfolds. I've only seen through season 3, so I'm gonna go back to lurking. Yeah, season 4 was the Ghost Rider season, which I did actually like what they did with Ghost Rider. I wish he had been in the show a little bit more. It's a wild ride. It's already been a wild ride of a show. Also, I should say, if you guys are listening to me, like, cut the show apart and you're like, what is she talking about? That show is amazing. I'm not a big Marvel fan. I have to state that, like, up front. I watch all of the Marvel stuff for Ghost because he's into it and I'm not. So if I'm saying, like, oh, I really didn't like this aspect of the show, and you're like, what do you mean? That's, like, how Marvel stuff is. It's just because I'm not the target audience. So take everything I say about Marvel-related stuff with a grain of salt, because I'm not the target audience, and I know I'm not the target audience. I'm watching that show to hang out with my husband. I've been watching it for the third time. Yeah, so Halo, like, your opinion and mine are gonna be, like, way different. And don't think... I'm definitely not trying to, like, offend anybody who likes Marvel stuff, because I know that I view it differently. I know that it's, like, not... It's just not my specific thing. It's the only TV show that survived for Marvel. It did have 7 seasons. Which to me, it's weird that they're doing, like, all of these one-season shows now. Like, they clearly had the ability to do a long-term thing. Ghost Rider was pretty great. Comf, if you like, Marvel stuff, if you like comic stuff, you might like it. We're watching it pretty much because it's there and it's a Marvel thing we haven't seen. But yeah, we started watching She-Hulk. We watched the first 2 episodes. And I found them entertaining. I found them pretty funny. I'm interested to see what they're gonna do with the show, because it's a bit different from their other shows. I think we've had 10 minutes of Hat, so I think the Hat's gonna go back onto the desk. I really enjoyed the Loki show too, but I hated the ending. I don't really know what they were doing with the ending. I really liked WandaVision too, but I hated the ending. This is like the theme with me and the Marvel shows. Great show. Can you end it decently? Just watched the Loki show like a week ago. What did you think of it, Shugraz? I was just in the ending. The last episode of the Loki show felt like they were waiting around for something to happen. And then I honestly felt like they should have just ended it a few minutes sooner. Just watched WandaVision. So you've basically just watched all of the Marvel shows, Shugraz, is what I'm getting from here. More were going to be longer, but nothing got views, so they got canceled. And we kept ending AOS each season because they genuinely never thought it would get another season after 3. Interesting. We are writing today, Angel Faye. We're just distracted. That's all. You're right. We're supposed to be writing. We're not supposed to be talking about Marvel shows. We're supposed to be writing. Proof positive. We're world building today. Shugraz. Oh, Shagraz is gonna fight the writing, but here it comes. I really liked some of the setup that they've done for the new Marvel shows, but I don't think they've stuck any of the landings. I'm doing well. We are going to be world building for my new project today. Sorry, blowing my nose. I have been working on, I just started working on this a couple weeks ago, a project called Everyone's Child. 3 hours later, she's still not writing. It could happen, Halo. If Shagraz has his way, this entire stream will just be us talking about Marvel shows. This is a high fantasy story that we're going to be writing. I think it's going to be 6 books long. You shouldn't end a season on a cliffhanger anymore, not with how cancel happy everyone is. Oh gosh, preach, Exiled Fae. That is my thing. Like, if you know that you're going to have another season, that's fine. But like, if I'm invested in something, I want it to have an ending. My other problem with the Marvel shows is I think they're all just movie tie-ins, ? But again, my husband really likes them, so we watch them all. And I watch them for him, and I don't really usually talk about my opinions because I know I'm like the wrong person. Anyway, we've been working on this, Everyone's Child. We already did our characters. We've built this all on stream. So we have our main characters, we have sort of the organizations that are at work in this world, and we even started an outline for the book. So I did not fully finish this outline. We got about 75% of the way through, and I had to go make dinner, but also I have to fill in some of these blanks. But I have a really good idea of where all of my characters are going to end up going now. So we're actually going to start building the places that they're going to go, so that I have like an idea of what those places look like and how they function before my characters get there. They are all movie tie-ins. I mean, that's true. It is it is a lot of words, and these aren't even novel words yet. These are just preparatory words. I don't know. It's morning. I've had 3 sips of coffee. That's what AOS did after season 3. They never thought they would get more, so they kept leaving it off on a single point. And AOS went off the movie lines around season 3 too. I noticed that. Like, they did a bunch of tie-ins, and then it seems like with season 4, I was like, maybe they're trying to tie in with Guardians of the Galaxy, but it seems just like so different from everything else that they did on the show that I'm really interested to see what they do with it. So today we're going to start with some city building. One thing I haven't done for this book series, and I'm not planning to do right away for this book series, which could be radical, I don't know. I haven't actually made countries for this book. I haven't actually talked about where borders are. I haven't actually established what the layout of kingdoms is. And that's because I feel like the first 2 books are going to be, or at least the first book, is going to be very zoomed in on Alhaith. And so we're following very closely these 3 characters who are the main characters. And they don't necessarily have ties to a country. They're not necessarily interacting with kingdoms. And so I'm focusing on individual places of power within this world, and I'm not necessarily establishing my kingdom borders yet. That might bite me in the ass later, because I do think it's going to be important to have a map and have an idea of where the various kingdoms and borders are. But I'm kind of planning to do that later when we get more out into the world, if that makes sense. Because I feel like for the moment, for the first book, the journey is kind of a straight line, if that makes sense. Yeah, Comp, how are you? A little tired, but otherwise doing good. Almost slept in, but got myself out of bed. Did you do your walk this morning? They got told they were allowed to move on from the movie, but it is still technically canon. Oh, that's interesting. Just woke up, threw out the trash, moved my car, now I'm here. Nice. Nice. I I basically woke up, made coffee, went on a rant about Marvel for half an hour apparently, and now we're here. So the first thing that we're gonna do is build the Mage Enclave. I'm probably gonna give it a better name. It's probably gonna need some kind of capital. When we started to do our world building for the Mage Council, we kind of established that they have a base of operations that's very like the Vatican. Also, by the way, guys, if you want me to turn on the sprint timer, let me know. I absolutely can do that. I don't know how much I'll be using it today, but if you guys want the sprint timer on, let me know. I can absolutely pop that on for anyone who is working. We've got a 20-minute timer and a 30-minute timer, depending on what you guys want. But basically, we established that the Mage Council sort of has a base of operations that's kind of like the Vatican here in the real world. So even though the Vatican is located in Italy, in Rome, it's kind of its own little it's not quite a country, but it kind of operates like its own country. It kind of has its own like ruler and law holders and all that sort of thing. It's part of Italy, but it's also kind of its own thing. That's kind of what I'm going for with this Mage Council, that they basically have a place where the main mage school is and where like their archive is, and it's sort of under their control. It's not its own country. They are not like a kingdom, but they kind of have sovereignty over that particular city. And so that's kind of what we're going with this enclave, is we're going to build a city. It's going to have like its own structures, its own rule structure that it operates under. And it's within a larger country. What was the code name for this story? This one, the one that you saw, the timeline that you saw, Shograz, this one wasn't in there because Damarin isn't in this story. So it doesn't have what you would expect to have of a place in that timeline. The code name or working title is Everyone's Child. And it is part of the multiverse. It does tie in. It doesn't, Damarin's not in this story. He doesn't have a tie-in. Like London City, London. Yeah. The Vatican is technically still its own country. It's not by the Italian laws. Yeah, exactly. But, like, it's also not a full country. Like, it's kind of like its own thing, if that makes sense. I don't think I'm explaining it well. If Ghost was here, he could explain it, because he's a social studies teacher, and he knows the stuff. But that's basically kind of what we're going for, is we're kind of creating a singular city, not quite country sort of thing. And I have this, I brought this up. Whoops. I brought this up. Glad you know what I mean, because I feel like there's a word for it and I just don't know what the word is. I have this is my old Tumblr, which I don't update anymore. Tumblr kind of destroyed itself. Oh, look, Damarin demands a page. I don't even remember building this. Look at that. Oh, look at that. It's Damarin wearing a corset. Look at that. Look at that sexy beast. Nice. I didn't even remember making this. Distractions. All right. So I have this, which is a handy dandy thing that I bookmarked while I was on Tumblr. This is just basically a reference to how cities in the real world are built so that you can use it to build fake cities. When I wrote the first couple books of the Aravalia Chronicles, I used this to create Silvergarden. And I used this model, district sectors with a central hub. So I've kind of established that in Aravalia Chronicles, Silvergarden is a city that has the center of it is the palace. And then the city sort of radiates outward from that in a patchwork of districts. And sort of every time they need a new district, they sort of slap it on there. And so it's a mishmash, right? but it's not, it's distinct from the district sectors with multiple nuclei, which I believe Calgary, if you're familiar at all with Calgary, is basically built like this. It has a bunch of different community centers, and then they're all kind of connected by the outflow of the city as it radiates outward. Just looked it up. Apparently it's its own country, also known as a city-state. That's what it's called, a city-state, like in Civ. So it's not quite the same. They're not treated quite the same as they, as like we treat Italy. Hey, Vinyl, how are you? Shagraz was just telling us that you watched Lucifer and that you liked it, and I can't wait to talk to you about it. Carbade, hello! Did someone say world building? We did! We're looking at different city models. So this is a really helpful, if anyone wants me to, I can actually, how do I get the link for this? How does Tumblr work again? Is this it? Yeah. So if anyone wants to look at this, this is basically what I use for my city building. And it has a bunch of different real world examples of how cities are built and also how cities evolve over time. So I'm less worried about the evolution because this is more of a medieval setting. So we're going to be pretty early in the city's history comparatively compared to like today. And like I said, I used this model when I created Silver Garden. I want to use this model, the concentric zones. And the idea is essentially that in the center of the city, you have the main district. So that's where our like council building, our like massive temple, not temple, but like school, our massive like central area where the mages sort of run everything from is going to be located. And then it's going to have districts that sort of move outward, right? And so the idea was that it started as sort of like that single massive building and it wasn't supposed to be a city, almost like Washington, D.C. wasn't originally supposed to be a city. It was supposed to just be a bunch of government buildings, and then eventually a city sprang up around it and it became what it is today. So that's going to kind of be the idea, is that they're going to have this central building, and then it's going to be like the houses of all the people that support that building, and then it sort of grows ever outwards. And I have some really cool ideas for this, hopefully. So it's okay, you're allowed to ignore me whenever you want. Oh, Shagraz. We love us some world building. Sprint timer. You were making a bad joke. Oh, Shagraz, never change. Carbade, how are you? Leader, thank you for the lurk. Let us know how you're doing if you want to come out. Lucifer was so good. Yes! I'm glad that you're a convert of Lucifer. Season 4, peak Lucifer, I'm telling you. I normally use maps of old in real life cities. They have great layouts already. Exactly. And basically what this has done is it has taken a bunch of, like, it shows you Chicago as an example here of what we're doing. It's basically just kind of broken it down into different types of different categories. And there are cities that don't fit into these categories. Obviously, these are just sort of generic, but it's really helpful for like getting a picture of what you want to lay out. You're grand? Glad to hear it. Excited for this, love world building. Oh, guys, I'm so glad you guys are enjoying these. I thought maybe these streams would just be boring because I'm just kind of yammering about what's in my brain spaces, but I'm glad you're enjoying it. Be lurking while I eat breakfast and get ready for work. Enjoy breakfast, Vinyl. I hope you have a good day. So we're going to use the concentric city zones for this. And the idea that I had for this, because I wrote a very brief scene in the original. If anyone here was here when I talked originally about this project, I wrote about 11,000 words of this when I was in college, and then I abandoned it because I didn't know what I was doing with it. I very briefly wrote about this city, and it's in a jungle. And so the idea that I had was, if you think of a massive river, kind of maybe like the Amazon, and I'm thinking a massive river with an island in the center. And I'm thinking they put the sort of mage council there originally because it was just supposed to be its own thing, right? So it didn't need a lot of land. But then the city grew up around it. So you have the center of the city, and then you have the few original districts. And as the city expands outwards, it's going to hit a river. So why not, they're mages, why not have a floating city? Why not, basically, they've gotten to the point where they need more land, they don't have it, and so the city has radiated outward onto the water, and so you have floating buildings. You have almost like Venice, where the streets are essentially river, but all of the buildings are floating. Everything it's a floating city, and it's grown to the point where it basically brushes the bank on either side of the river. So that's kind of the idea that I'm going for here. That's kind of the idea that I'm going for. I probably am going to need a name for this jungle. Love. Oh, I'm glad you love it. I love it too. I was coming up with this. I was actually laying in bed last night coming up with this, and I was like, I was thinking about it and I fell asleep, and I woke up this morning and I was like, I didn't get to finish planning my city. So let's just see. Place names. Do they have jungle names? Sounds like a tsunami could be a bit of an issue. It could, although do rivers have tsunamis? Like, it'd be inland. It would be in the middle of a jungle. It's just on a river. I imagine flooding is a thing. And so I was thinking, because there's usually a rainy season and a dry season in jungles and rainforest. So I was thinking that they're basically designed to rise and fall with the river. And also some parts of the city, because it brushes the shore, some parts of the city will sometimes float and sometimes not float, depending on the level of the river. Possibly, like, I definitely think there's magic involved in the building of the city, because it is a mage city, right? So they have technology that the rest of the world doesn't have. It'd be wild if a storm system traced the river to acquire enough wind speed and water content to turn into a pseudo-tsunami, but I think it has to build up enough over ocean water. Yeah. And I mean, obviously, I'm considering floods. And I've lived next to rivers pretty much my whole life. So I know a lot about flooding, and I'm thinking they will have accounted for that. I don't know if I like these names. The last four names are actual names for a jungle. They're completely randomized and thus mostly non-existent in real life. Interesting. I do like, I think it would be Lurugua. The problem is I always see fantasy names that I like, but then I'm like, how do you pronounce that? Conrissa is a good one. Lurugura is a mouthful. I know. I'm trying to get in the habit of when I make, like, when I make up places to actually say the names out loud. Because I've had to actually change spellings of names before. Because I'm like, this is a cool looking name, and then it's just unpronounceable. So I think I'm gonna name the jungle Conrissa, but then we still need a name for the city. Oh, there's a sub menu, guys. Let's just go with fantasy town name. Actually, that's what I use to do all my Arvalia names. Whoops. Places. Let's see. Let's just see, for shits and giggles, let's just see what it says for Elven city names. Right off the bat, I like Oshrin Thamar, so we might go with that. So we've got the jungle, which is going to be called... we're going to call it the Conrissa Wilds, and we're going to call this... Oshrin Thamar. Mage. So I can actually, if I need to, I can actually do that a little bit so I can just see, you guys can't see it, but I'm basically just making sure I can see the name of it there so I know what this is. Hey, Lomi, the secret is to die before an audiobook gets made with your guidance so nobody ever knows how to pronounce them. How to pronounce fantasy names with difficulty. Exactly. But I figure if I can't answer how it's said, then I can't complain if people say it air quotes wrong. How are you, Lomi? How are you doing? I feel like my coffee has gotten cold already, guys. We've written like 3 whole words so far. I do not know why. I am so sniffly today. All right. So I have to decide. I think secrets. I think when I did Silver Garden, I just basically wrote about the different things that were important in the city. We can talk about the... I guess I need like a... something I can use as a template. No, don't click there. That'd be... Kryptonia is my D&D campaign. So you want location. I think we want to make those size 14. Actually, we would put down here, and we will put, there. I don't think we need a ton of information about this particular thing, because, we've already kind of talked about sorry, my brain was like rebooting. We've already kind of talked about how the trade and the current state of affairs for the mages are when we did the outline of the Mage Council. So we really just need to know what their area looks like. And I was thinking... So I'm thinking Been entirely decided yet, but something kind of like this for the basic outline of the mage building, because it's in a jungle, and I am sort of basing, like, the floating city idea is also kind of an Aztec-y thing that we've sort of discovered, that they had, like, floating farms and that kind of stuff. So I'm kind of thinking this massive step pyramid type temple building. It won't be entirely Aztec in style because the Aztecs do not exist in this world. But something sort of similar, something like this, where it obviously has that base pyramid shape, and then it's just a very fancy building on top. I'm so tired doing housework today to catch up on all the stuff I didn't do while I was in book writing editing crunch. I did that over the weekend, I feel you. I need to stop and make lunch. I hope you enjoy the food. I'm doing pretty good. My foot was pretty wonky last week. I had a big nerve pinch, and I think I've mostly released the nerve pinch now. So that's good. I'm not limping anymore, which is good. I'm just still trying to rest it a bit to make sure I don't instantly re-pinch the nerve. And yeah, and I'm late getting started on writing today because I got distracted by a rant about Marvel stuff. Gonna head out and do stuff. Carbe, thank you so much for stopping by. And I hope you're free of writer's block as well. Have 3 large piles of laundry to fold. Don't wanna, oh my goodness. I usually, watch something while I'm folding just because it makes it feel less mindless. Obviously, you're watching me. I don't know if I'm good laundry folding entertainment, but, okay, I'm actually gonna cheat a little bit here. I'm just gonna pop AFK really quickly. Oh shoot, I forgot to run ads, you guys. I forgot that I switched to manual ads, and I forgot to run ads during the pre-roll. So actually, I have been live for almost an hour. People are gonna start getting pre-rolls. Let me do an extra long, a really quick extra long ad break. We'll do 45 seconds, and then that way people won't get pre-rolls. I'm gonna pop AFK, reheat my coffee, and just stretch, and then we're gonna actually dig in and actually start writing stuff, I promise. Sincerest apologies. I totally forgot that I switched my my ads over to manual, and that if I didn't run ads, people were gonna start getting them, getting pre-rolls. So hopefully That was quick and painless. All right, and I have some thoughts. I just came up with some really cool ideas while I was AFK, actually. So the location is... was this song. I should have just skipped it. That song distracts me. So I'm thinking we've got a little bit of a Mists of Avalon sort of thing going on here where people know in general where to find the city, but they can't actually find it without a mage to guide them there because it's in the middle of thick undergrowth. It would be easier to find it sailing down the river, obviously. People can, I'm thinking, stumble into this place. I guess we should give this river a name, too. I didn't even think of that. It's like, yeah, it's on a river. What's the river called? Place names. River names. Frothy Creek. Sleeping Beck. I like that name. First four names are generic names based on appearance, local flora. The last six names are randomized. Ugh, okay. Beddingmore Rill. Unknown Tributary? That seems like a weird name for a river. Sinbin's Brook. I know that's not what it says, but... Blaingow Rill, huh? Is Rill a specific type of river? A small rivulet or brook. That doesn't really work. Long, narrow, straight, or sinuous trenches or valleys observed on the surface of the moon. Interesting. Small channel or gully. Huh. Huh. I'll write it down. I don't know if I'm gonna use it, but I like it. Infernal River. 1 hour until I get to eat my lunch. Yay! Ramen is always Ghost's choice of lunch as well. Snack time ramen. I feel like I'm spending too much time on naming this thing. Let's call it Blaingao. You know what? Let's just call it Blaingao Rill. We can come up with a reason why it's called that. One other thing to consider is that this is probably something that will come up more in the story than in the world building, but rivers change course. Like rivers, if you look back through the history of a river, they can actually change location. And this actually happened, there was a town near us last year who had this massive double whammy of wildfire and massive, massive flood. And when it was time for the river to go back to its banks, it actually adopted a new path down a main street in the town instead of going back to its original banks. And they had a hell of a time trying to get the river to flow back the way it was supposed to. So this is something that can happen, streets notwithstanding, this is something that can happen in the wilds where the you know, the river floods its banks and it adopts a new, essentially, direction. Rivers don't always flow in the same place. So this is something else that the mages will have had to take into account when building their city in the middle of a river, is essentially that they're probably going to have water mages keeping the river flowing in the same, at least that particular bend in the river. Because I'm imagining that they use the river as part of their defense and power system. I'm imagining they have some water power as well. So just a thing to keep in mind for me. Just a thing for me to keep in mind. Was it Yellowstone that had the river change when they reintroduced wolves? Yes. They culled the deer and there was more vegetation in the lowlands, so it forced the river into a new path. Yes, but actually it forced the river back into its original path. So there's a huge article that I read. It was very, very interesting about the ecosystem of Yellowstone, whereby the removal of the wolves actually caused a great deal of damage because the vegetation and like the beavers and the deer and all that were allowed to do a lot of things that the wolves kept in check. And so when they introduced the wolves back into Yellowstone, I think it was within 5 years or 10 years, it had completely corrected the ecosystem back to what it used to be. In case you ever wonder, like, do we actually need all of these everything that Earth put here? Yes, we actually do, because an ecosystem is a system. It is based on a series of balance. And so if you remove something from that equation, such as a predator, you actually, and this is deer are actually a big problem in a lot of places because the deer will just keep breeding and they will just keep expanding, you know, into whatever territory they can. And actually, it's bad for the deer population because then they get things like brainworm. And they had a problem. My husband and his family used to live in northern Ontario, and they had a problem in their area where the deer population got out of control and they were infecting the moose with their brainworm. And the moose population is much smaller and much more in need of protection than the deer. So they actually had to basically start encouraging hunters to shoot the doe instead of the buck because that's how they control the population. So it's really fascinating. It's really interesting from a world building perspective to know that, right? To know that the way that a river flows can be affected by the apex predator in the area. And that if that predator disappears, if it's hunted to extinction or if it's driven out by humans, it can actually ruin the entire ecosystem. I don't remember where that article I read was, but yes, it's very fascinating because I never thought a wolf would affect the flow of a river, but it 100% does. And especially because like beavers have a huge impact on the environment because they can actually change the flow of a river. Because we get this idea of, oh, beavers are these cute little rodents that live in the woods. First of all, they're huge. And second of all, they just build these massive structures if there's nothing to stop them from doing that. So it's fascinating. Wasting disease is really bad where my family lives, so they pay hunters to cull does. Exactly. There's so many deer and not enough mountain lions. Exactly. And like, on the one hand, like, I'm not for cruelty of animals or anything like that, but hunting does have its role in the ecosystem because otherwise, if the deer population is too big, then it starts to become ill. It starts to have problems. It starts to eat too much of the ecosystem that's needed for other animals, or it starts to change the environment around them. And if we don't have natural predators like the mountain lion or the wolf to eat that deer, then we humans got to do our part to eat that deer. And I will say, deer meat is delicious. I've had venison most of my life. I grew up in whitetail deer country, and we knew hunters that would bring in a deer every year. And they would give us deer meat jerky, or we'd have venison stew or whatever. So as long as you're eating that meat, as long as you're making use of that animal, it's not necessarily always a bad thing. Venison with onion and potatoes, yes. Oh, Lomi, yes. We ran off the predators, and now we have to be the predators. Exactly. Or we have to do what we did at Yellowstone and reintroduce the predators back into the wild and give them territory so that they can do their job. So I know in Northern Ontario too, they sometimes have problems with the bears coming into town because the bears can't find food anywhere else. So they go digging in the dumpster. They go digging in the garbage. We would have the predators if not hunting in the first place. So I always support reintroduction over hunting. Absolutely, Exiled Fae. 100%. I'm with you on that. We have to do our part. But the best thing we could do is let nature recorrect, right? Let nature have what it needs to correct the territory. 100%. I always have mixed feelings about hunting, because I think if you're using the animal, if you're eating the meat, if you're using the pelt, then I don't necessarily have a problem with that. But I do think that letting nature take its natural course is always the best option. 100%. Okay, so we have that it's in the Conressa Wilds. It's on the Blaingau Rill. That the city started on the island and has expanded outwards. So I think that's it for the location. That's right, I gotta do. I just need this. Come on, dude. Cooperate a little. There we go. What did I just do? I think I accidentally clicked on one of the links. Oh, there's the button I'm looking for. Remove hyperlink. And since Anne helpfully looked up what it is supposed to be called, we're going to note that it is a city-state. And now we need another name, because we need a name of a kingdom. Let's see. Kingdom names. Some of these names, okay. Is this like Craixia? So many names today. Well, I like this one, Evershay. Let's use that. ASHA. I don't know that I'm using the best words to describe everything in here, but it's okay because this is mostly just for my reference. I like that I can hear you typing in my, you're typing and my typing together. Nice! So we're making beautiful music together. Hooray for productivity! Alright. So we basically have the Mage Enclave, which is this big fancy building. The upper tiers are for the Mage Council. The middle tiers are this huge prestigious mage school where all like the best master mages, handpicked by the council, of course, do their teaching of magic. And then the bottom floors extending to underground are the archives where all of the magic knowledge and magic information is kept, into the forbidden knowledge section, into the vaults where all of the magical artifacts that the Mage Council has essentially said these are too dangerous for anyone to use are stored. I'm sure it will bite them in the ass at some point that all of the magical stuff, dangerous magical stuff is stored in one place, but I found a possible apartment that has a trail nearby and I can walk to a grocery store. That's awesome, Comf. We used to live like a 5-minute walk away from a store, and it was so nice to just be able like, oh, I forgot this thing, I'm just gonna pop across the street and grab it. Or like, hey, let's go buy some Sunday night snacks for movie night, and we get a walk out of it too. So this is also a little bit bare bones, but any really like detailed descriptions I'm gonna save for like when someone's actually standing there. So let's do the layouts. 'cause I feel like it. So I like the idea of it being Evershe, like Evershe, instead of Evershe. Whatever. What color are the switches on your keyboard? I believe mine are the blue. Cherry MX Blue. I used to have brown. These are the ones I have. Clicky clacky. I used to have the brown, which I believe are one stage better than what I have. But I have the blue ones now. Thought it sounded like blue. Mine has red, and I'm thinking of popping my husband's keyboard open to steal his blues. Yes! Do it! Do it. The keyboard I had before was slightly higher quality than the one I have now. And it came with the brown, but when it busted on me, it was just too expensive at the time. We were buying a house, and it was too expensive at the time to drop like $200, $300 on a new mechanical keyboard. So I went with something slightly more compact and slightly, I don't want to say lower quality. I guess it's just a different tone of the clicky clacks. I did like the browns a little bit better, but the blues are nice. The blues are very nice. Used to have brown, have yellows now. So much happier. Nice. Nice. I haven't tried the yellows, but I think you mentioned them before, AB Coffee. Where's my cursor? There we go. So this is the cool idea that I came up with when I was reheating my coffee, is that because the city is self-governed and self-protected, they actually have, we've established that the way magic works in this world is that mages fill sources with magical energy that they can then draw on to create spells, and the sources are specific to the school of magic. We've also established that force magic is made using, it comes from sources that are man-made, right? So like a shield or something like that, a talisman. So I'm thinking that they have these massive, massive sources that have been constructed around the outside of the city and around the outside of the enclave as well. So 2 lines of defense. And essentially the building process is how these sources are imbued. And so they already have these sources imbued for a shield. So if the city is ever under attack, the mages can essentially draw the energy from these massive sources and create a giant protective dome over the city. How fucking cool is that? My keyboard was chosen solely for being as obnoxious as possible. I love the look, but I could go for some clackier clacks to aid the obnoxiousness. Yeah, you gotta have that visceral feedback. Nothing is more satisfying to me as a writer than when I get like in the zone and I just hear that clicky clacking. I'm like, heck yeah, I'm doing something. Cool. I think that's pretty much all we need for here. I have a pretty good idea in my head of what I want it to look like and feel like and be like. Browns have the audio, albeit maybe a few decibels higher. Yeah, what I found with the Browns is that I think they had a cleaner click, so, which is not to say that these are muddier, but they're a little bit hollower in sound, and the Browns were a little bit cleaner and a little bit more robust. Now, when I'm typing a lot, I don't really notice a difference, and I'm pretty happy with the blues, and I would buy the blues again. I think the reds are pretty on par with the blues as well. Sometimes I wish you could just, this is why I wish you could just like go to, because they don't really have a store that you can walk into and be like, yes, let me hear all the clicks of all the different, of all of the different mechanical things. You have to listen to them online. And sometimes like the quality that you're getting in your headphones isn't necessarily what it's going to sound like when you actually do it. I like the feel of my husband's keyboard. It's just his keyboard is plain black and my setup is all white with ultra bright rainbow LEDs. Oh yeah, you gotta have those rainbows. Popping out of lurk mode real quick to tell you that despite not reading any of your books because I'm lazy, you're still an amazing author that deserves to make it big. Oh, Leader! You're so sweet. Thank you so much. I am in the process of talking to several people about audiobooks. So just so you know. Infographic. Nice. Yes. Yes, this, so I found with the Browns that I did get a click, out of them. But tactile is exactly how they felt, for sure. I used to have a DAS Keyboard Ultra, which was amazing. I loved it. It had no labels on the keys. It was just blank. It was very clean, very versatile, like very satisfying click. But I just couldn't afford them. I just could not afford to have them when I switched keyboards. And now I think I've shown you guys this before. Sorry. Sorry. So this is my keyboard now. You notice that the tops of it are empty. There's no labels on the tops. The labels are on the sides. That was one of the reasons why I picked this keyboard, because the oil from my fingers isn't constantly rubbing against the keyboard. Because I used to have blank ones, because that's why. Because the keys get rubbed off. So with these, they're on the side. My keyboard does need cleaned again. I apologize. I cleaned it about a year ago, but it probably needs another one. So the letters aren't getting rubbed off, and it's just a really nice sensation. Let me just click somewhere where I'm not gonna cause massive trouble on the thing, but you can kind of see what it looks like when I tippy tap type. Just a nice little feedback. I'm trying to show it from the side. I don't know if that worked very well. But that's my keyboard. It's a Ducky One. I really like it. I'm really happy with it. And it was basically just because I couldn't really afford to get another DAS keyboard. I want the quiet but tactile. Nice, Comf. You have mechanical keyboard set up for demo at the Navy Exchange of all places. I like standing there and just clicking all the keys. That's awesome, because if I had a place where I could just go test like all the clicky clacks, I would love that. Your nails are so nice. Thank you. I've started, you can kind of see that I just trimmed the ones on my right hand, but my left hand, I've been growing these for a while, so I always mean to paint them, but like I spend an hour painting them and then they instantly chip and I get angry, so I haven't been painting them very often lately. But yeah. So I don't know that I have a lot to say about the Conrissa Wilds. I'm thinking of making it a rainforest after the, like, style? After the, like, type of the Amazon, potentially. So if we just pop onto Wikipedia and just get a quick sense of it, I see Hard to Resist at a top coat helps chipping so much. I used to have a lot of really high quality nail stuff, and I just kind of stopped using it, and now a lot of what I have is cheap, so that's probably part of the problem. I keep wanting to get into, I forget what they're called. My friend Flutter has these, they're like little stickers that you put over. They're really popular, and and everyone's gonna know what they are, and I can't think of what they're called, but she used to have a whole bunch of those, and I keep meaning to try and get into something like that, but again, just like the effort of keeping my nails pretty anymore. Jamberry, that's what it is. That's what it is. Yeah, she loves the Jamberry stuff, and she has a ton of it. And I keep being like, I should get that. Because it's like, they're really nice. And you just basically have to... But again, she spends like 2 hours applying hers. And I'm just like, do I want that kind of commitment? I miss having really nice painted nails. But I also just... Yeah, I don't know. But we went to the store a couple weeks ago, and the cashier had these gorgeous, they were fake nails, but she had these gorgeous fake nails that were all black with like little fake like gemstones on them, and they were gorgeous. I don't know how she typed on a keyboard, because they were like this long, but they were gorgeous, and I was just like, I love your nails. Jealous of your nails. So this is actually kind of the sort of thing that I was thinking of, except there would be more river on the sides of the islands. So this is good. Let's see. Oh my goodness. I mostly just want to get a sense of like, I should actually just flip and see what I did when I did the Mistborn. Another rainforest. There we go. That's actually just the city. That's not even... I just didn't even write anything about the... Yep. Good job, me. Now you can see how shoddy some of my world building is. I started using press-ons with glue tabs because I can't keep my nails nice when I'm sanding dolls and stuff. That makes sense. I wear them all day and then pop them off when it's time to work. That makes tons of sense. Because I would imagine, yeah, if you're working with a sander, or even like when you're working with paints and stuff, you don't want to accidentally like paint over your nails. Also, I have really horrible like coordination. I bump into shit all the time, so no matter how careful I am, my nails just get fucked up all the time. I actually have one. This one is like super ultra small because I looked down one day and there was just a chip out of it. And I was like, so I assumed that I whacked my finger against something and chipped off that part of the nail, but I just don't remember. Rogue elbow syndrome. Exiled Fae, me too. I feel like my superpower is just bumping my elbows into everything. I can feel like I'm 3 feet away from everything and still whack my elbow on something. It's insane. So I don't know if this is really giving me the information that I want, but I'm thinking, typical rainforest. I'm thinking, hot, humid, dry season, wet season, but the dry season is still pretty wet. I was hoping this would give me some information on, like, temperature ranges. Okay, that's a spider. We don't want to look at that. No, thank you, please. It doesn't, I don't see, does it say over here? It's not giving me like an average temperature. Average temperature. From 20°C to 25, average daily temperatures. What about average rainfall? I'm assuming it's a lot. 79 to 394 inches of rain per year. Right, so you would have a rainy season during what we typically think of as winter, and then a drier summer. Gotta get my munchkin soon, so I'm gonna pop out here and finish the last of my housework, but it was nice to sit for a bit. Thank you so much for coming by, Lomi. Good luck stealing those switches from the husband's keyboard. I hope it works out. I hope it gives you the clicky-clacks of your dreams. So let's see. There is one thing I also forgot to mention that I'm going to add, is that there is a prison which our characters end up in Oshrin Thermar. Let's see if I can just... Probably blinking in another chat as I'm in the backyard kicking the ball for the dog, and I keep wandering further from the house. Looks like it flipped over to Data already. Oh no! Exiled Faye, I hope you and the dog are having a good time, though. Be sure to give your dog extra scritches from us. Send Doggo our love. Very important to give our pets love. Right. So that finishes up one of the most major places that we're definitely going to see is Oshrin Thermar. I'm really excited to write about it. The next thing I want to do, there's two other places that I really, really want to get through today, although I might do one big one and a couple of small ones. It just depends. But the next really major thing that I want to get through is the Watchers Sanctuary. This is where Ciri and the Watchers are stationed. And the idea that I have for this place is essentially a floating city. I think I may have... we haven't looked at the Pinterest for this in a while, but I'm pretty sure I bookmarked something. I pinned something for it. If I can find it... this was essentially the idea that I had. So something like this. Essentially a floating fortress that is invisible. Like you can't see it unless you know. Again, kind of like the Mage Enclave. You don't necessarily know how to find it unless you know how to find it. But it is not the kind of thing that people would see floating above them. It's kind of hidden, it's concealed. I'm thinking that it's going to be a little bit anachronistic. It's going to be a little bit more modern than everything else in the world. Instead of being made of stone, it's made of metal. And the people who live in it don't necessarily know where the building materials came from. And so the idea is that the Watchers watch. They watch over the world. They're trying to guide the world into a specific destiny that they believe is essentially the right direction for the world to go in. And so they have this giant floating fortress that sort of moves slowly across the sky around the world. No one else can see it, but from it, the Watchers watch over everyone and sort of guide everyone to where they think they're supposed to be. So I basically just have this idea of like a floating fortress, like a miniature, it would be a very small city, but a very large like building structure. I think if I can find it, our friend Bard Owl has been posting some Midjourney prompts that she did, and there was one that actually fit my idea for this really well. If I can find it, I don't think she'd mind me showing it on stream. I think it was when she typed in Ghost Pepper. As a matter of fact. It was one of the ones. So when Bard Owl typed Ghost Pepper into and I believe she typed it PPR without the E, this was what the AI spit out. And this right here is basically like what I have in my brain for the Watchers. It's like this giant spiraling tower fortress that floats through the sky, essentially. Also, I think these are very cool. Oh, I really like this one too, but this one instantly. This is Midjourney. So our lovely friend of stream, Bard Owl, she has been doing prompts on Midjourney where she basically just types in her friends' names and see what it spits out. I should show you guys the Star Striker one too, huh? Because it was pretty cool too. And I think it's really awesome that because I haven't like signed up for Midjourney or done anything Midjourney related, but she basically just typed in each of our names and showed us what the AI spit out. So this was the Star Striker one, which is also very cool. I really like these. So we've been having some discussion on the Discord about how Midjourney works and if it is mimicking art or if it is stealing art to make what it makes. But I can't deny that as a creative tool, it's very useful for just having a visualization of a concept. And I definitely, when I look at these pictures, it definitely sparks a lot of creativity. And so this is kind of basically what I have in mind for the Watcher Sanctuary. All the art in my VN demo is from Midjourney. Nice! AB Coffee, that's awesome. I was very briefly considering the possibility of using Midjourney for book covers. I don't think I will do that. I'm kind of hedging until I know more about how the art is actually generated. But I do think as like, kind of like with Pinterest, right? Where you can just scroll through and get really cool ideas. I think it's really good for that kind of stuff. It's super, super creative. And it's gorgeous. Like it sparks that creative spark. So I definitely wanted to show this because it's like the exact visualization in my brain of like what I want to do. I need to use Pinterest more for D&D inspo. Yeah, totally. I've shown this before. I'm gonna have to take a break and do more ads in a second. I've shown this before, but I basically have a Pinterest board for each of my projects. You can't quite see the Eternity's Empire one there. And so when I set up the Everyone's Child board, I kind of just went through and bookmarked anything that seemed like I wanted to use it as a concept for the story. But for some of my more defined ones, like if we go into the Celestial Serenade, let me make this a size that you can actually see all the boards. So essentially, 404 pins, right? So this is the Kalteran Empire. This is stuff that is specifically like to the capital like the style that you would find in the capital. This is a sort of like the aesthetic style of the way that the Empire builds their cities and their ships and stuff. And then each of the characters has a board. So Salus has a lot. Salus has a lot of pins. So, and then there's the ones, the Salus and Cantus ones. And there are some, because at one point Salus cut his hair, so there are some short hair Salus pictures as well. And then we have my sweet baby Anton, who is hard to find pictures for because this man almost never emotes on his face, but I have some good shots of him. And then we have Alrea as well, one of my favorite people to find pins for. And we have a whole bunch of people. It's my sweet baby Liam. I think most of his pins are the same character, but whatever works. And then some miscellaneous pins that I haven't quite put into different areas yet. And then we have my Arovalia Chronicles has over 463 pins. Thank you for the posture check, Exiled Fae. I have been slumping. It's very interesting how it makes its pictures. Of course, the final product is better drawn or hired artist or made yourself for demos or inspiration. I super dig the AI train. Yeah, for sure. I think it depends on how you're using the art that it spits out, right? For sure. I know, but I've been doing this for a while. Comf. This is actually the Mistborn Forest was what I was looking at from my notes before. It's actually a city that is built in and around the trees of a jungle. So it's an elven city, and they basically bend the branches of the living trees to make their houses so that they don't have to... They don't cut down the trees. They only use, like, fallen wood, reclaimed structures. And some of, like there are these massive mushrooms and stuff. Like, they'll hollow them out and they'll build buildings in there and stuff. So... this is one of the things that I love finding pins for, because it's one of my more specific sort of inspiration ideas. And then we have just basically a bunch of places. We have Crescent has his board. So there might be some maybe not the safest for work pictures in here, but he has his board. So these are the characters in the story that I've been working on stream. Silkfoot, one of my favorite characters. Silkfoot Lightvolt, my pirate captain. And then we have some pins that I haven't managed to put in various places yet. And then, of course, we have Domran's board, which there's just a lot. There's a lot of pins in here. That looks good for Feywild ideas. Yeah, for sure. My boards are public. You should, if you follow me, you should be able to see them all. I mean, you should be able to see them whether you follow me or not. But feel free to poach my pin boards and pin them for yourself. Comf. This will take you to Domran's board, but this is me, and then you should be able to just get to my generic pin boards. But a lot of pins for Domran, as you can probably see. So, I really like these ones. The cat in here should be not a black cat, but whatever. Domran's boyfriend is a cat shifter, so there's a lot of Domran and cats Want to improve my narration environment in D&D? Yeah, no problem, Comf. I definitely recommend, like, the more you pin certain things, the more Pinterest will show you things that are similar to those things. So if you're looking for inspiration for a specific thing, if you go in and look at that a lot, it will show you more and more of that stuff. So you can kind of train Pinterest to show you the things you want to see, and it's really great for inspiration. I really like this one, too. I really like finding pictures of... It weirds me out, but I really like finding pictures of people that could be Damarin. One time I was scrolling through Tumblr, and I found a picture that, like, deadpan made me double take because it was exactly how I imagined Damarin. I think it's on here somewhere, actually. If not, I'll show it to you guys because I have it on my computer. But I was like, oh my god, that's Damarin, what the hell, it was this. I was scrolling through Tumblr, and I found this, and I was like, wait a minute. Is he real? Is he a real person? This is Martin Sizemore, who is an actor and model. Real person, looks exactly like how I imagined. Give him elf ears, and this is basically exactly how I imagined Damarin. Without the stubble, of course, because he's an elf, but I was like... wait a minute, did something that I imagined come to life? It was really mind-blowing. So that was my first, like, double take of looking at, like, a picture of a real person and being like, is that my character? Is he real? But you can see there's a lot of Damarin pins. So yeah, I highly recommend as, like, an inspirational tool. Pinterest is great. I use it for that purpose, basically, to just scroll through to get ideas. And then if I am struggling with a description, I'll just pull up something from my Pinterest board and I'll try to put what I see into words, and it helps to have that visualization. That was how I came up with the description of Silverwing Palace when I created Aravalia. I'm gonna take another break because I have to run ads and it's been an hour. So I'm gonna do another kind of long ad break just to make sure people aren't getting pre-rolls. We're gonna do the Watcher's Sanctuary for sure, and then I might do a couple smaller quick places, because I only have 2 days to get this work done, right? So I have today and tomorrow, and then we have to be ready to write this book. So there's 2 really big detailed places that need done, the Watcher's Sanctuary and the Cave, which is going to have a better name. And then a couple of little places that the characters are going to experience along the way. So I'm going to pop AFK. I'll be back in 2 minutes. Please don't panic if you see ads, and then we'll make this floating fortress. Guys. You guys. I just had a really cool idea while I was AFK. So I'm gonna swing back here again for a minute. I put this prison in like a series of caves, but what if it was actually in like hollowed out trees? So they basically have these massive rainforest trees and they hollow them out and they turn them into prisons. Just a couple of quick changes there. All right, so the Watcher's Sanctuary. Again, let's steal. I just really need like a template to use for this. Alright, the Watcher's Sanctuary. I don't think I'm going to go super fancy with this one. I think it's going to be pretty straightforward. Peter, hello! This window was taking so long to load. I clicked away and started watching Rick and Morty, and it was a quiet scene, and then I heard you saying, "You guys!" You guys! I was not in Rick and Morty. Sorry about that. Peter, how are you? What is up? How are you? I said that twice. That's how much I want to know. Old Ganny, hello. Thank you so much for the follow. How are you? What is up? I'm sleepy, but okay. How are you? I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited about this here world building that we're doing. We're just getting this world ready to actually be inhabited by our characters. I was at my writing group tonight and wrote a great story about a king whose favorite game is Pocket Pool, and he executes everyone who makes fun of him for it. Interesting. My first reaction was that Pocket Pool was a euphemism. I don't think I actually know what Pocket Pool is, but I think that's a great story, Peter. Oh my gosh, old Ganny, thank you so much for the Prime sub. That was very sweet of you. Am I saying, is it old Gianni, actually? Am I saying it wrong? Please tell me if I'm saying it wrong. Peter, should I Google Pocket Pool, or is that going to be bad? Is it going to be bad news? It means a feller likes to engage in playing with the contents of his pockets, which if you're a feller and you know how to play pool, like in pool you've got the cue and you've got the two balls there. I feel like I'm being very rude. I feel like you're being a little vague. English is my second language, so sometimes I just have to guess. Look, Peter, we asked an awkward question. We got an awkward answer. It's fine. These things happen. What you're saying is don't Google this, is what I'm getting out of this. Don't Google. Unless you're feeling adventurous. Sorry I didn't reply earlier. How you said my nickname was fine. No worries. There's no rush, old Gianni. Welcome in. Welcome in. We're just doing some world building for this project that I'm hoping to start writing on stream next week. And we're mostly just winging it. So the Watcher Sanctuary, I'm actually just making a note to myself, is anachronistic. It is not like anything else that's found on this particular world. It looks like something out of the modern world, built for space or to be used in atmosphere. And I'm doing that very purposefully. I'm not entirely sure where it came from yet, but that's what we're going to discover. Sleepy, hello! Thank you so much for the bid. What is up? What is up, my friend? What are you doing today? So that's pretty much all I'm gonna say about the Watcher's Sanctuary. We've sort of established that it's a temple. I might also add that basically access is based on your rank within the cult. So a higher level initiate, a higher ranking initiate can get into more spaces. It's sort of, again, it's very modern. Like if you have a level 5 designation, you can get into all areas level 5, marked level 5 and below. If you want to get into like the most highest area, you have to have the most highest security clearance. I think that's pretty straightforward. Also, I guess I should note they get in and out via teleportation. There's no way to approach it physically. There we go. Perfect. So I'm not entirely sure yet what I want the place of great purpose to be. I do have some ideas for the Starlight Cliffs, but we might jump to the cave. So if you've watched any of these streams, we've established that as 3 of our major characters here, Tetrasil, Drungoliath, and Skrillex, these are 3 sleeping knights. Which are basically pieces of old celestial forces that were frozen in time, put into stasis by the creator goddess, and they sleep in this cave. And people believe that these statues that are located in this cave are just ancient deities that have been forgotten, that they are just statues, but they are actually these 3 sleeping knights frozen in time. And the cave, which I am going to give a proper name here probably in a minute, is a vital part of the pilgrimage that our main character, Aleith, is attempting to undertake. And I think it's actually where a significant portion of the first book, probably about a quarter to a third of the first book, is actually going to take place in this cave. So this is a really important thing. I don't know that I'm going to establish... I'm not going to do like a map or anything, but I want to establish some basics about this cave. So the first thing I'm going to do is get a proper name for it, because we don't really have that. Let's see if there is a cave name generator, because of course there is. Good at creating plot. I suck at creating characters, so I'm looking forward to steal even a small bit of your awesomeness. Well, I'm glad that you're here, because I'd love to help you out with creating some characters. For me, I just try to think of one core thing to start my characters with. Sometimes it's a personality, sometimes it's an ability, sometimes it's just whatever weird concept. So when I created Aleith, The concept behind her was that she is the daughter of a creator goddess. However she came into this world, she is essentially the child of a goddess, but in mortal form. And so everything that I decided about her was based on that core concept. How she is treated by the world around her has sort of shaped, because I figured, if someone is the child of a goddess and everybody knows it, they're going to treat you different, right? So sort of her whole history and her whole personality were formed around that concept of daughter of a goddess. Another of the characters from this story, Jalen, the sort of core concept for him was that he attempted forbidden magic, and he was infected or tainted by some ancient power that he wasn't supposed to touch, but he did. And so, again, his whole concept sort of came out of that. For the three sleeping knights that I've been talking about, Tetrasil, Drungalith, and Skrillex, the idea for them just kind of came from, I was scrolling around on Pinterest, which I actually still have up, and I had sort of stumbled on these concepts of these like really like biblical and angel type structures, right? Because if you think about angels in the Bible, we couldn't really comprehend what they looked like. They were like 1,000 whirling eyes or concentric rings of fire. And so I sort of wanted to create characters that were a little bit like that. Bard, thank you so much for the bits. How are you? We were talking about you earlier. I actually shared some of your Mid-Journey pictures as a inspiration for one of the things I'm working on. So for me, that's what I do, is I sort of try to start somewhere with an interesting concept, and then I build outward from around that. If you have a bunch of plot things already established, try to think about what kind of person would do the things that you need them to do, and you can sort of try and get your personality from there and sort of start shaping your characters from out of sort of the events that you need to take place. I always shape my plot from characters rather than vice versa, but there's nothing wrong with doing it in the opposite direction. It's just about finding where the transfer point is, I guess. Good, just got out of math class. I finished Cobra Kai yesterday, thinking about watching Karate Kid. Nice! The new Karate Kid, the one with Jackie Chan. Doing okay, working as usual. No worries, Bard. I hope work is treating you well. Did you have yesterday off for Labor Day, or did you guys just work straight through it? Okay, so we're gonna give this cave a name. The Unwelcoming Overhang. The Colorless Hole? That does not sound like a nice name. No, we worked. Bard, I feel you. I worked too. I worked too. I get it. The Faraway Cavity? No, come on. Some of these are like, they feel way too naughty. Golnir Abyss, not bad. Tivermere, I like Irelum. Maybe we'll call it the Irelum Abyss. And then we'll call the actual chamber where the knights are, the Grotto of the Knights. Or the Knight's Grotto. What about want versus need? I hear so much about. How do you identify a character's need? I know what they want externally, but every time I think about what they need, all I can think about is being loved for who they are. So that's a really good question. A lot of times characters want something that is different from what they actually need, because a lot of people in the real world don't really understand essentially what they need. For me, I always think of this as something that comes out of their past, right? So generally, what your characters want is going to tie in with the plot. So to use my characters as an example, Aleith, our main character, is on a quest to fulfill a pilgrimage because there's a great prophecy that she will complete this pilgrimage, right? So she wants to complete this pilgrimage. That's the driving force behind this plot. But why is she... One way to find out a need for a character is to ask why they want this. Why does she want to fulfill this pilgrimage? Is it because she'll get a reward at the end? Is it because she was told to do it? Is it because she's being forced to do it? And if you start to look at the whys and wherefores of what a character is doing, you can often find the need. Aleith, what Aleith really needs is to define herself. She has grown up, her history, her past is, she has grown up being told all these things about who she's supposed to be and what she's supposed to do and how the world is supposed to greet her or how she's supposed to interact with the world. And she doesn't really know who she is without those voices. She's never lived in the quiet of her own mind to be able to make her own decisions. So what she really needs as a person is to be able to define who she is on her own terms. And in order to do that, she thinks that she needs to do this pilgrimage because she thinks if she does this pilgrimage, if she fulfills this prophecy, it'll go away and it will leave her alone. Is that accurate? Probably not. She probably can't just do fate and get fate out of the way, but she doesn't know that. So a need is often something that a character doesn't fully understand or doesn't fully know about. It usually comes out of their history. It usually develops over time, and it might not be immediately obvious. And what your character needs can change from time to time as well. In my Aravallia Chronicles series, I write a character called Damarin. I write him a lot. He is a warrior. He's very dedicated to his cause. He's very self-confident in his actions. He knows who he is, and he knows what he does, and he's very good at it. He's a soldier. He's very good at making cold, calculated, logical decisions on the battlefield. But in the privacy of his own mind, he has no sense of self-worth. He had a very bad experience in his childhood with his father. He and his father sort of butted heads because they were very strong personalities. And his father really tore him down and kind of convinced him that he would never be worth anything. And so there's this sort of secret underlying force in his life that he doesn't entirely understand that makes him feel expendable, that makes him make dangerous decisions without really worrying about the consequences because he doesn't think that anyone will really miss him if he's gone. And so there's a lot of this underlying drive in the plot for other people to help him understand that he does have value as a person and that what he does has value, but also who he is as a person has value. So you can look into these sort of underlying factors or these things that are sort of going on in the background that your characters aren't entirely aware of. And that will give your characters a lot of depth as well, right? Because we as real people in the real world often think and act a certain way, but realize, like, you can realize when you're 30 years old that there were certain things that happened in your childhood that made you act a certain way, and you're like, oh yeah, that explains a lot. Things like that. It doesn't always have to be that complicated either, though, right? It could be much simpler than that. You can look to the real world for inspiration. I do this a lot. If you know, you don't necessarily want to create your best friend as a character in your book, but if you know a person that has a particular character quirk or who has had a specific experience, you can learn from that experience or from that character quirk, and you can write that into your characters as well. I know what you mean. I need to dig deep into their past. Exactly. And possibly, if you're anything like me, when I create my characters, most of the time they don't come with a past. They come to me as personalities, as people that exist in a current time, and I sort of have to discover their past. I sort of have to discover what made them the person they are today. So don't panic if you have a character that on the surface seems very one-dimensional and you don't know about them. My advice is just explore them a bit. Ask questions about where they came from, what they might have experienced in the past. If there's a specific event in the plot that requires a character to act a certain way, you can ask, why would my character act this way? What happened? What thought process do they have that makes them want to do this, or that forces them into this bad situation? What happened in the past to bring my character to this moment? And you can fill it in as you go. I often do practice writing, where I just write scenes that may or may not end up into the novel, to get a sense of the character voice, to let the character tell me who they are. It's an exploration process. And another thing, too, if you're creating a character and you feel like they're not fitting in the story the way you want them to, you can change them as you go. Like, as you're writing the novel, as you discover them, if you're like, oh shit, it would make much more sense for my character to have experienced this thing. It would make much more sense if my character had a good relationship with their parents and something happened to their parents versus having a bad relationship with your parents. You can change that and you can adjust it, and you can go back and tweak everything so it makes more sense. And it doesn't always have to be like, they don't always have to have traumatic childhood. Like it doesn't always have to be something like that. Those are easy examples, because obviously if you have trauma in your childhood, it's going to affect how you go about your world. But there's also, like, if you're coming up with a lot of characters who are trying to discover people who will accept them for who they are, that's not necessarily bad either. I mean, stories about broken people trying to get by in the world are great stories. So if you have a group of misfit characters who have never really had great relationships with people, or who've never really been accepted for who they are, and they're finding acceptance among each other, that's a perfectly valid story, just so you know. Literally changed the character's backstory on a whim like yesterday. Oh, nice. What made you change it, AB Coffee? Any particular reason? Gonna go grab my lunch. Bard, enjoy lunch. That was a really long-winded answer, and I apologize if that was very meandering. But yeah, definitely don't be afraid to play around. Don't be afraid to, because sometimes I don't always take the first answer that comes to me either. Sometimes I'll be like, well, how would my character feel about, or like if I'm thinking, what would make my character do this particular thing? Sometimes I'll make a list and I'll put 5 things on that list, and then I'll pick the one that jumps out to me the most. I think I made another little step towards understanding my characters. No problem. And that's what I'm here for. That's what we're all here for. And if you have any like more specific like thoughts or questions that you want to bounce off the chat, I've always had good experience with chat giving feedback. Everyone who comes and hangs out here is super nice and super good about bouncing ideas and giving feedback. So if you want to ask the chat or myself anything specific, please feel free, because that's one of the reasons why we're here. Just sort of filled in some gaps I didn't realize existed and made the character better. I love that. There is an entire subplot in my Aravalia Chronicles that has been brewing since the first book, and I'm about to start writing book 10, and I've just now put the pieces together. Because I finally sat down with my characters and I was like, look, you're telling me that this is happening, that these people are melting out of the woodwork to make other people's lives miserable. I need to know what the core behind this is. And I have this character, Silkfoot Lightvolt, who is a thief, who always has layers upon layers of plans. And I know this, but I don't necessarily know what he's up to. And so it finally coalesced. All of these threads that I've been trying to pull together in the background, that I've been trying to make into this like coherent picture, it finally all clicked. And I was like, damn, there's some stuff in here that I wrote about in book 1 that comes to fruition in book 11. And I was laying these seeds for it all along, but I didn't know where they were going. And suddenly now I do. And so as I go back through and I edit, because I'm polishing the first 3 books again. And as I go back and do that, I'm seeing where all this foundation is, where all this ribbing is. And it took me 4 years to figure out what my character was actually up to. So don't be afraid to play around with that kind of stuff. And to let something be vague until it coalesces. Because when it comes together, it's great. It is the best feeling, Exiled Fae. I had one of those, oh shit, like, I had no idea. Basically, I don't want to say too much, but basically there's, Silkfoot is up to something. He's trying to steal something. And he's got this whole like rotating plot that keeps popping up in the background to this thing he's trying to do. And around about book 7, someone melts out of Domerant's past and starts poking him about something. And it turns out that the reason why she's melting out of the woodwork has everything to do with Silkfoot. But I didn't initially put that together. So Silkfoot's whole like subplot that's running sort of low-key running through this whole plot is actually starting to affect the main characters because he's stirring up this trouble. And it just, like, it blew my mind, because I never intended for the 2 things to be related, and it just kind of happened. Anyway, let's build this cave. So we are going to call it the Irrelem Abyss. IRRILEN, yes. Right. And this is a massive cave system. I'm thinking one of the most complex, deep cave systems in the world currently mapped. What's the word I'm looking for? Complex, maybe? Sprawling. I'd have to come up with more names here, but I might just put in space fillers now. The area of kingdom. Deathstalker, hello. What is the organization program you're using? This is OneNote. I am using the 2007 version. The 2010 version and the current version look a little bit different, a little bit flatter, and I don't quite like them as much, although it does work basically the same way. And just so you can see along the side here is, so basically up at the top, these are my different projects. Up at the top is the different areas. So we have people, places, and then the actual outline for the books. And then along the side, we have each of our places or each of our people. And then for my outlines, if I just flip over here, you can see that I have a section for the original outline and then each of my edits. So I highly, highly recommend OneNote. It's a great tool. The other cool thing is that if we look at the outline, each of these is an individual thing that I can move independently of the others. So if I want to change where a scene is, I can actually just pull it out, move it around. It's kind of like index cards. Bard, thank you so much for answering. The newest version is still very useful. It does look different. It's much flatter, I find. I like the depth of this one. I don't know. I have an old version of a student version of Office Enterprise from 2007 that I got in college. I have dated myself now. I don't know if it's still available. I know that you can use the latest version of OneNote free. They make it free for students. I even do my D&D planning on here. This Kryptonia tab is actually my D&D campaign that I'm running. So it's great. Oh, it has two. It has to have an exit, actually. Breaking my own world already. I'm thinking that these caves possibly run beneath a desert. I use Google Docs Sheets for the simple fact that I can edit it from anywhere, anytime. Yes, lots of people really like Google Sheets. I personally like having it offline. I have run into some lag issues with Google, but Google is a great tool set as well, and it has a lot of the same functionality as Office, and you get access to it for free. You can also use web versions with a free Outlook email. You can indeed. Easy peasy and all on cloud. I back my stuff up on both Gmail Suite and Outlook. I email myself stuff all the time. Back up your stuff 100%. But yeah, I do know a lot of people who like using Google because it's free, it's easy to access as long as you can get online. I do a lot of my work offline as well. So I just like to make sure I have stuff available to me offline, but honestly, whatever works for you. That's a big thing we talk about a lot on this stream too. Do what works for you. If you have a program, if you have a method, whatever, that is completely the opposite of what I do and it works for you, please don't change. Please do whatever works for you. Writing is not a one-size-fits-all process. You absolutely have to do what feels good for you, and if you try and fit yourself into someone else's socks, you're just going to be uncomfortable and grumpy. All right, so I'm gonna give the region above it a name. I'm thinking it's maybe below a desert. So let's see if they've got desert names, because of course they probably do. Desert wasteland names. Ooh, interesting. I don't know if I necessarily want to use any of these. Galaxy names. What? I like Wasarial. I actually like Wasarial Plateau, so maybe that's what we'll call it. And we need another kingdom name. Novalon. Thank you for the hydrates. Bard, welcome back. Would you like to tell us what you were nomming today? You don't have to, but please feel free to share. We know that Comp was going to have ramen at some point, and I hope you were able to have your ramen, Comp, and I hope it was good. Or is, if you are currently in the process of consuming it. So we are going to say that it passes beneath the plateau. In Novalon, crosses borders of several of its neighbors deep beneath the ground. All right, and then we are going to do just a little bit about the Knight's Grotto. And you can kind of see how, as I'm filling out the places where my characters are going, I'm also coming up with kingdoms for them to be in, which eventually we're going to flesh out each of these kingdoms and where they are and who rules them, but it's not going to be important for the first book. So I'm not worrying too much about, some people will create the whole world first. I'm mostly concerned with the pieces that will allow me to write the book, and then I will flesh out more and more of those kingdoms and more of those details as I go. And eventually I will have a complete world. But if I drop a complete world on my readers right off the bat, their brains will explode and they'll hate me. So I like to do my world building in increments as needed. And it's always good to hint at something bigger. It's always good to hint at the fact that there's more in the world than what you can see. Having some delicious pho. Is it pho ga or is it pho ga for my birthday lunch? Either way, enjoy. Also, happy birthday! Is today the birthday day? Bard, happy birthday. I know you celebrated on the weekend, but I was not aware that today was the day. Alright, so we basically have this cave system. It's deep, it's long, it worms its way beneath this Wasarial Plateau, which is basically a wasteland. It holds this Knight's Grotto, which is what people believe to be a shrine to lost gods, which these are actually sleeping entities that will awaken during our story. This is also the second stop on the journey, the pilgrimage that Alethea is undertaking. So we have that. The next place, possibly the last place I want to do, because we've done these three and we've done the Abyss. That leaves three places, but I think I want to do the Starlight Cliffs today because I think It's going to be super quick. I know I'm already running over time, but whatever. I'm just going to eat lunch after this. My brother and sister-in-law took me out for a late lunch on Sunday, and today we're all working and then have meet the teacher for my nephew and niece this evening and doing a little cake and ice cream after. Bard, enjoy. I hope the meet the teacher goes well. Did stuff start for you? Did school start for your niece and nephew today? Because Ghost is fresh back. Blue Moon Kraken, hello. How are you? Sorry I missed your hello. How are you doing? Is Neo in here? Oh, no. My Neo Bard all of us. Today is the day. You pronounced it correctly first. Nice. I'm familiar with Fa. I wasn't sure if it was the same as Faga, but I assumed that I was going to need to pronounce it not the way my brain said to. What's with all these birthdays? I mean, I think you know the answer to that, AB Coffee. Blue Moon Kraken, what are you up to today? And how are you? My nephew starts tomorrow and niece starts next Monday. Ah, nice. So you get to meet the teacher ahead of time. That's pretty nice. Faga is pretty much just pho with chicken. Good to know. I didn't know that. I like to learn these things. So I think I still have this up, but we were talking before about these lovely Midjourney pictures that our friend Bard Owl here in chat generated by putting our usernames. This was the Star Striker one, the Starborn Striker one. And this is the one that my husband, Ghost Pepper, spit out. And this image right here is another sort of inspirational thing for me, because we had talked before about how the first stop on the path to on the path of Aleth's pilgrimage is this Starlight Cliffs. And the idea that I'm thinking is that they are the highest flat space in the world. So it's basically a series of steep cliffs, almost like a mountain, but then at the top it's leveled out flat. And it is the closest to the stars that you can get on this particular fantasy planet. And basically people go there to cleanse their soul beneath the starlight. So we've talked about how mages in this world charge sources in order to make spells. A light/shadow mage would come to the Starlight Cliffs to charge a source with starlight, or possibly also moonlight, because you'd be pretty close to the moon as well, on a full moon beneath the Starlight Cliffs. So the idea is that Aleth and Jalen on this journey, they go to this flat space on top of these cliffs to be cleansed by the starlight. I'm thinking that this is going to be a very simple location. It's hard to reach. I'm thinking people don't really live there. Possibly also that because this is a spiritual site, they only allow temporary shelters, so there are no permanent structures built there. It's the kind of place where a monk would kind of go to, live in solitude or to study enlightenment or something like that, right? So this is the place where our characters essentially go for some self-reflection at the start of their journey. There's no civilization there, so it doesn't need a ton of development. But I'm going to put a couple of notes down here. Midjourney is such a neat tool. I found inspiration for my Furious Fiction submission in one of the generations. That's awesome, Bard. I've been scrolling through a lot of the Midjourney stuff too. And for all the discussion that we had about, using it commercially, because I think you'd have to be very careful using it commercially. It is a great, and I was saying this earlier, it's a great inspirational tool. It's kind of like Pinterest. It's great for looking at something and getting that spark and being like, oh yeah, like that would be a good visual for this thing in my head. Or, hey, that inspires me to tell a story, right? So I do think it's a great tool. I'm really interested because Ghost and I actually know a guy, Mr. Roboto, for those who have seen him on Ghost streams. Our friend Mr. Roboto actually studied making AIs, so he actually knows how this kind of stuff works and how AIs are trained. So I'm very interested to hear what he has to say about how something like Midjourney probably works. He obviously is not part of the team. He probably doesn't know exactly how they're training the AI, but he knows the different methods. And when I wrote the Celestial Serenade, I actually talked to him. I picked his brain a lot to create my character Dragon, who is an AI. An AI shaped like a dragon. Their body is a dragon body. But he was the one who sort of fed me information about how an AI would learn and how an AI would interact with things. And it was very, very interesting and very enlightening. And he has since read those books and really enjoyed them, which makes me happy as well. So let's see. The Starlight Cliffs. Let's just give some base information here. I'm thinking they should also be on the edge of the Wasarial Plateau as well, because it has to be somewhat close to the cave. We're gonna give them a more specific name in a minute here. All right. Again, I just had a word in my brain and it just flew away. It just grew wings and it just flew. Ascended, I guess? Climbed. Alright, and I'm gonna give them a proper name, but that's pretty much it. Just, they're basically just these really high cliffs with a flat space on top. Nobody lives there, but lots of people go there for religious or spiritual purposes, or to charge mage focuses, because our mage sources, because as we've established, that's a thing in this world. So let's look at the name generator one more time and get one more cool name, and then we'll wrap this up. We'll see who is. I almost said we'll see who's raiding. We'll see who's streaming so that we can do a raid, and I will go get myself some food. Let's see. Places. Now this is a bit of a harder one because cliff and fjord names. Chatsburg. We'll name it after Chat. Chatsburg. Lumina Games, hello, how are you? Welcome, welcome in. We're just looking for one more name for a location for this for this world building. I don't know if I like any of these. Searching for cozy writing stream to settle in and get to work alongside. We are about to wrap up for today. I do apologize. It's about lunchtime for me, but I will be back tomorrow afternoon, actually starting up around 2:30 PST to do more of this. Normally I do writing sprints and co-working. We're just doing a little bit of world building today and tomorrow for a new novel series that we're hopefully going to start next week on stream. But I will be doing Thursday morning. I'll be doing a writing prompt, so we'll be doing regular writing sprints. So I hope you'll come join us. Timing, my greatest weakness. No worries. We are going to hopefully raid someone who is doing something similar to what we're doing. We'll probably be raiding another writing streamer. Absolutely. They do this place, Fantasy Name Generators. Lumina Games, thank you so much for the follow. I really appreciate it. They have like. I can't stress enough, like, this is, when I click on real names, you can't even fit all of the options on the screen. So they literally do have, like, names for everything. I might actually look at mountain names, as well. But, yeah, we're totally gonna raid someone who is also hopefully writing, and like I said, I'll be back, tomorrow and again on Thursday. And I hope you'll come join us. For some reason, I am just not liking any of these names. So when I can't find something that I like on this particular name generator, I'm just gonna switch to something slightly more generic here. And just look for a combination of letters that I like. I don't know why this one name. Oh, I like Delern. Maybe we could go with that. I'm trying not to use too many of the same sounds. Fantasy Name Gen is a writer's best friend? Absolutely! Especially for writers like me who immediately forget the whole alphabet. Oh my god, Bard. When I'm trying to think of a name, I can think of like 2 letters. And I'm like, I'm just gonna pick 2 of these at random. I like Kemoc Danlem. Let's go with that. Also known as Kemoc. D-A-N-E. Danelm? Is that how that was spelled? Yes, Kemoc Danelm. Cool. So the Starlight Cliffs, also known as Kemoc Danelm, located on the edge of the Wisarial Plateau along the border of Novalon. Novasaurus! Oh my goodness! Thank you so much for the raid! We are, I apologize, about to wrap up, but welcome in, welcome in. How was your stream? Shout out Nova Rex. Did I spell that wrong? I think I put a 0 in there? Let me do that again. There we go. I definitely think I put it the wrong name in the first time. I was like, did I capitalize that or did I do a 0? It was good. Got lots done. It's been great. We've been doing some world building. We put together a really cool city that's in the middle of a jungle. And it started out on an island, but it sort of crossed a whole river, so parts of the city float. It's super cool. We came up with a floating fortress, which is very anachronistic to the world that we're working in, but also super cool. And we just created a cave and a mountain system, a sort of cliff system that are going to be part of a pilgrimage our main character is going to take. So it's been really fun. There's been lots of meandering for it, but it's been super fun. This is one of my favorite things about world building. I'm just sort of fleshing out little bits and pieces of the world. And then hopefully next week, tomorrow, I'm going to be finishing off the last couple places on my list here. And then we're going to finish the outline so that next week we can actually start writing. I've been doing this entire process on stream, and I've actually been uploading the VODs to YouTube. So for anyone who wants to just watch me from beginning to end do a planning for a new novel, it's all there. It's been a wild ride, but I've really enjoyed it. What were you working on your stream, Novasaurus? Got lots fine. Hey, this is what happens when writers spend all their energy on words, is that they can't words anymore. I get it. I hope that the words were flowing for you while you were on stream. So yeah, I guess before I go, I should mention, I guess I should throw this out here because it's been at the bottom of the screen. My husband and I are doing a chair-a-thon to raise money for chairs. Obviously, I won't talk about it too much because I forgot about it during the rest of the stream, but our chairs are not great and Ghosts is held together by duct tape. So we are raising money. These are the rewards. We've already unlocked a tipsy chat stream, which I'm going to drink wine and chat with you guys. It's going to be super fun. That'll probably happen in October. Ghost is going to make hot sauce. I don't know when he's planning to do that. We are going to do a brunch stream where the two of us eat brunch and chat. And if we hit $600, which is what we're working on now, we will upgrade that brunch stream to a 12-hour stream. 12 hours of me and my husband just nattering at each other. It'll be great. We've also unlocked a 12-hour writing stream, which I'm going to do in November during NaNoWriMo. So look forward to that. If any of these crazy things look exciting to you, and you want to throw some money at that, hit the exclamation divorce. It will bring up where you can donate. The dungeon map giveaway, it's $5 or any donation $5 or more enters you to win the dungeon map giveaway, and that is a custom map that my husband Ghost Pepper will make for you using Dungeon Draft for your D&D campaign. It can be a dungeon map, it can be a city map. He has some stipulations for that, but he can work that out with you. It's only $5. Anyone who's donated $5 or more is entered into that. We counted up our income for August to add to the bar as well. So if you donated bits, if you subbed, whatever, that's all counting towards the goal as well. And Ghost is going to go through and see anybody who donated $5 over the course of the month will be entered in that giveaway as well. So just a little thing to let you guys know it's happening. I forgot to mention it earlier today. But it is going on until the end of September, when then we will hopefully order some chairs. Editing my novel, writing a new one, and some work. Nice! That's awesome. Out for the evening, going golfing with the wife. Nice! AB Coffee, have a great time. We are gonna see who is streaming some writing so that we can get me some lunch, but also see if we can get some more work done. Let me mute my stream so you won't hear me twice. Let's see who's around. Sable is around. Nice. Author Goddess. Base Prefect. Oh, there's lots of people writing today. Lots of people writing today. Let's see. I don't think I've rated Author Goddess in a while. Let's see what she's up to. We're also going to do some shout outs here because there's tons of people that you should follow if you don't already. Whoops! I guess I shouldn't show my OBS on the screen. That might be a little bit weird. I have rated Bitzerk a lot, and I feel like I always rate them when they're wrapping up. Check out Bitzerk. Check out Sable Aradia. One of the people who got me into streaming. Check out Base Prefect. We rated them recently as well. And of course, check out Novosaurus, who rated us here just a few minutes ago. I think we're going to head over to Author Goddess and say hey, because I haven't gotten to read her in a while. She's got a sprint timer running for anyone who is working and wants to get some more work done. I don't know where that random L came from, but you knew who I meant. That I did know exactly who you meant. Bitzerk is awesome. They do a flash fiction every day, which is amazing. I can never do that. And they do a prompt and they post it every day. So if you're looking to get some short fiction in, it's a great place to go. I try to spread around the love and raid people that I haven't raided in a bit. So let's hit raid Author Goddess. That's not how raids work. It's /raid. Lol. What is happening? I hit this first. That would not have done anything, but if you have the emotes, please feel free to use them. Otherwise, use whatever emotes make you happy. That's the most important thing. We're gonna go drop some love on Author Goddess. I am gonna get some lunch. I'm super excited about this. I'm really happy with how this world is coming together. Tomorrow afternoon at 2:30 PST, I will be back working on this same project. We just have a few more world pieces to wrap up, and then I'm also going to flesh out that last little bit of the outline that we didn't get to last time. It's going to be a sort of finish up prep phase, the final countdown, the final preparation for getting that novel ready, and next week we're going to start writing it. I'm super excited to get back into raw writing on stream. I've been doing so much editing lately, which is important, but oh my gosh, I'm ready to just be writing again. So greatly looking forward to that. Thank you so much to everyone who hung out today. Thank you, Novosaurus Rex, for the raid. Thank you, Bard and Sleepy, for the bits. I really appreciate you all. You're all amazing. Until tomorrow or the next time I see you, take care.
Fresh guy.